Ayubowan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please rise for the distinguished guests. On behalf of the Human Rights Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, it gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome each and every one of you to the inaugural Bar Association of Sri Lanka's Human Rights Oration, organized in collaboration with the Commonwealth Legal Education Association. Today, we gather here to celebrate our shared commitment to human rights, justice, and equality.
Ladies and gentlemen, to commence this evening's proceedings, we will now light the traditional oil lamp, a symbol of wisdom, enlightenment, and new beginnings. May I kindly invite our distinguished guest for the lighting of the oil lamp. First and foremost, our inaugural human rights orator, His Lordship Honorable Justice Surya Kant, the senior most justice of the Supreme Court of India. And we also invite Mr. Rajiv Amarasuriya, the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, His Excellency Santosh Jha, the High Commissioner of India in Sri Lanka, Justice Rohanta Besurya, President's Counsel, President of the Court of Appeal, Mr. Chatura Galhena, Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Justice Yasantha Kodagoda, Supreme Court Justice of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, and thereafter Mr. Chatura Galhena, the Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Pasindu Silva, the Treasurer of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Sarinda Jayawardena, Assistant Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Lakshan Dias, the Chairperson of the Bar Association Human Rights Committee, Mr. V. Puvidaran, President's Counsel, Chairman of the Legal Aid Commission, and Professor S. Sivakumaran, the President of the Commonwealth Legal Education Association. Thank you, and we request the audience to remain standing, and we invite the dignitaries to take their place in the head table.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem of Sri Lanka.
Sunday.
Thank you, and please be seated. Your Lordship, Honorable Justices, President's Council, Attorneys at Law, and all who are gathered here today, once again, it's a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the inaugural Human Rights Oration organized by the Human Rights Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. And now to officially welcome all of you, I invite Mr. Lakshan Dias, the chairman of the Bar Association Human Rights Committee, to deliver the welcome address.
His Lordship Justice Surya Kant, the senior most judge of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, Supreme Court of Republic of India, their Lordships are the judges of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, and His Lordship Justice Rohan Surya, President's Council, the President of the Court of Appeal of Sri Lanka, and their Lordships are the judges of the Court of Appeal, Honorable High Court judges, Honorable District Court judges, and Honorable Magistrates, the ambassadors, and the representatives of embassies, President's Councils, senior attorneys, former presidents of the Bar Association, and the Executive Committee members of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, and friends. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to this inaugural Human Rights Oration of the Bar Association. Justice Surya Kant is a great honor to us to have you here as our keynote speaker and the chief guest of this inaugural Human Rights Oration. I think it's my duty to setting the tone on to this event by introducing the objectives behind the Human Rights Oration. The President and the Exco of the Bar Association agreed to hold this oration as we believe that public law jurisdiction of the country needs constant review and revisit. Often as public law jurisdiction, especially human rights aspect of it, need to be updated with new tendencies and new knowledge to protect the human rights of the people that are gained by the people through various struggles, political and judicial interventions. We often forget that the laws are for the people, and therefore people aspirations are number one priority of the law. Secondly, we in the South Asian region are identified as fast-growing economies where rights of the minorities and marginalized communities are tend to be compromised in connection with the development and border protection and the state aspiration. In such situations, the development of public law, especially the law of human rights, and its achievement and new paradigms are necessary and useful to share and learn as well as to celebrate. We hope to create a new tradition within the legal fraternity of the country and also anticipate to continue to exchange such rich experiences with our neighbors. Not only shall we sincerely remember that we import the initial notion of human rights from the great sons of the India, such as Lord Buddha and the Emperor Asoka, as well as Vedic norms and Manu laws. In such context, presence of your lordships today is an encouragement and also for us to rethink our role in relation to develop our human rights protection. Your lordships once said, I quote, "Meaningful progress lies on the uniformity, but in mutual understanding where each nation afforded the dignity of its own path, shaped by both heritage and contemporary responsibilities," unquote. We are eager to hear your lordships on this given theme and learn new insights of the legal aid and protection of minorities and marginalized. Once again, I thank all of you who join us in this evening and looking forward for a meaningful time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dias. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Rajiv Amarasuriya, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, to address this distinguished audience. Over to you, sir.
Our distinguished orator this evening, Your Lordship, Justice Suryakant, members of the head table, Justice Yasantha Kodaguda, President's Counsel, Senior Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Rohantha Abesurya, President's Counsel, President of the Court of Appeal, Honorable Judges, Ambassadors, past Presidents of this Association, President's Counsel, Senior Instructing Attorneys, members, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you to the inaugural Bar Association of Sri Lanka Human Rights Oration. As many of you are no doubt aware, one of the principal objectives of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka is the promotion, observance, and protection of human rights and liberties of citizens. Over the past 50 years, and indeed long before the BASL came to being, our legal profession has stood steadfast in defense of those rights. Whenever liberty was in peril or dignity undermined, the Bar Association rose to speak and, of course, to act. This has never been a matter of convenience, it has been a matter of conscience. That tradition of standing firm for principle, even in difficult times, is what has defined the BASL as not only as a professional body, but also the conscience of the civil society in this country. It is in that same spirit, ladies and gentlemen, that during this historic Golden Jubilee year, we decided to commence a new tradition, the annual BASL Human Rights Oration. We envisage it as a national platform to reflect upon the state of human rights, to examine emerging challenges, and reaffirm our shared commitment to justice and humanity. And truly, we could have chosen no better orator to inaugurate it than Your Lordship, Justice Suryakant, the senior most Justice of the Supreme Court of India. Your Lordship's judgments, ranging from questions of citizenship and identity to the rights of domestic workers and the protection of the marginalized, have combined profound legal insight with compassion and common sense. Each of them has quietly but powerfully advanced the cause of human dignity. And we are equally honored this evening by the presence of Professor S. Sivakumar, Senior Professor at the Indian Law Institute and the current President of the Commonwealth Legal Education Association, and of course, many international participants who will be with us today and both tomorrow and day after at the National Law Conference in Kandy. Your presence today reminds us that human rights is not the concern of one nation, but the collective responsibility of the Commonwealth and indeed humanity. The topic chosen by Lordship, that is strengthening a legal aid system to achieve human rights of marginalized and minorities. The Indian case study is deeply relevant to us. Fundamental rights, however noble on paper, are of little value unless people can access justice to enforce them. Legal aid is therefore not an act of generosity, it is a constitutional duty and of course a democratic necessity. It is the bridge between the promise of the Constitution and the reality of everyday life. For the poor litigant in a remote village, justice often feels distant, entangled in cost, delay, and complexity. A robust legal aid system restores faith that justice is not the privilege of the powerful or the privileged, but the birthright, and I emphasize the birthright, of every single citizen. Sri Lanka has taken important steps in this direction through the Legal Aid Commission, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, and several other stakeholders to expand access to justice in this country. Yet there remains a wide gap between what is guaranteed in theory and what is felt in practice. The Bar Association has intervened whenever human rights were at stake, whether to protect a member wrongfully treated or to act in the national interest, as we recently did in matters of the environment and the matters in relation to the rights of students. We've also sought to empower our members through awareness, training, and digital transformation. So justice may not only be fair, but also be swift and, importantly, accessible. Because we must appreciate that delay, too, is a form of denial. Still, we recognize that the protection of human rights cannot rest solely on these institutions. It must live in the values we carry as professionals, in our integrity, in our empathy, and our courage to speak when silence would be easier. In that sense, the Indian experience, ladies and gentlemen, offers much insight to all of us. From the creation of the National Legal Services Authority to the wide network of Lok Adalats, I hope I got the pronunciation correct, to the use of the digital platforms for legal aid, India has demonstrated how commitment and innovation can work hand in hand to make justice accessible to millions of people. These are models from which Sri Lanka can learn, adapting them to our own needs and realities. What matters most is the underlying philosophy. The justice must be proactive, the justice should not be reactive, justice must be inclusive and not be selective. The Commonwealth community, too, has long recognized that human rights cannot thrive in isolation. Education, collaboration, and cross-border dialogue are the tools that keep these principles alive and evolving. Our gathering today, ladies and gentlemen, with representation from the bar, the bench, the academia, and civil society, is a reflection of that shared commitment. As we look around us, the landscape of human rights is changing faster than ever before. New frontiers, digital privacy, misinformation and fake news, artificial intelligence, climate displacement, present challenges our predecessors could scarcely have ever imagined. The defense of human rights today demands not only moral conviction, but also technological understanding and adaptability. At the same time, we must guard against what is often called human rights fatigue. It is easy to become desensitized, to treat rights as slogans rather than solemn guarantees, and we must resist that. Our vigilance must not depend on the popularity of the cause or the identity of the victim. The test of our commitment is our consistency. The bar and the bench, though distinct in function, are united in purpose. When the bar stands for liberty, it strengthens the bench. When the bench upholds independence, it empowers the bar. Together they sustain public confidence in the justice system, a trust once eroded is difficult to restore. Ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate the golden jubilee of the Bar Association, we look back with pride and look forward with purpose. For 50 years, the association has defended the rule of law through times of peace and turmoil alike. The next 50 years must see us go further as reformers of systems, facilitators of access, and defenders of those who have no voice. Let this human rights oration not be merely a ceremonial event, but the start of a living tradition, one that challenges us each year to measure how far we have progressed in making justice a lived reality of all our citizens. As Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That truth is as relevant today as it was many decades ago. Before I conclude, let me express our profound gratitude to Your Lordship, Justice Suryakant, for graciously accepting our invitation and for traveling to Sri Lanka to deliver this inaugural oration. Your presence lends immense honor to us and to this occasion. Our appreciation also goes out to Professor S. Sivakumar and the CLEA delegation for joining us and for the continued partnership with the BASL through the Commonwealth Legal Education Association. Thank you also to the BASL Human Rights Committee, chaired by Mr. Lakshan Dias, for all the arrangements they have made to make today's event an absolute success. Thank you to all of you, the participants, for joining us at this inaugural annual oration. Let this oration mark the beginning of a lasting tradition, a tradition that celebrates courage, compassion, and conscience, that honors those who fought for the dignity of others, and which reminds us every year that the law is ultimately a tool to build a more just, a more humane, and a more inclusive society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Amar Surya, for those inspiring words and also for your guidance in making the Bar Association of Sri Lanka a defender of human rights. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome Professor S. Sivakumar, the President of the Commonwealth Legal Education Association, to share his thoughts with us.
Honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant, Senior Most Judge, Supreme Court of India, Chairperson, National Legal Service Authority and Chief Patron, Commonwealth Legal Education Association. Honorable Justice Jaswanta Kurmadare, Judge, Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, Justice Rohatna Abhaya Surya, President, Court of Appeal, President of Bar Association Sri Lanka, Mr. Rajiv Amar Surya, Chairman of this Human Rights Committee, Dakshan Dais, Mr. Dakshan Dais, Secretary, Mr. Chaturtha S. Banateda, then Mr. Pavitran, my friends, lawyers from Supreme Court, Mr. Sandana Krishnan, Mr. Arunesh Gupta, my clear colleagues, Commonwealth Legal Education Association, Dr. Vikram Singh Arya, Mr. Prashant Barua from UK, Professor Gigi Moon, Professor Sagi Gita Sethu from Dubai, Dr. George Giri, Ms. Jasmine, student convener Ms. Nebila, and Indian High Commission representative Mr. Lashman Anand, esteemed dignitaries, distinguished members of the bar, faculty colleagues, friends. Good evening to all of you. Justice is not only a remedy, it is a presence that is lived, shared and felt. It finds meaning in everyday reach. When the law walks beside the ordinary citizen and not ahead of them, it endures as a collective duty measured by inclusion and sustained by shared consciousness of fairness. Justice at its best is the intelligence of democracy and a moral rhythm through which societies learn not merely to decide but to care. It is an honor to be here in Colombo for the inaugural Bar Association Sri Lanka Human Rights Oration, an event that affirms our shared belief that law is not merely a structure of rules but a continuing conversation about human dignity. I thank Bar Association of Sri Lanka and especially Mr. Amar Surya for this initiative and for organizing in collaboration with Commonwealth Legal Education Association. I think it is a time we have to institutionalize this aspect in every year, same time. The theme of this evening, strengthening a legal aid system to achieve human rights of marginalized and minorities, a case study of India, is a timely topic, and we got an excellent orator for day. We don't have any other choice other than Honorable Justice Suryakant for this. We used to say, he not only speak, it is coming from his heart. The activity is also like that of National Legal Service Authority. The other Lordship is telling, there are a lot of little issues of Indian people in Dubai. Lordship want to have a clinic in Dubai also. So that kind of thinking process Lordship is having, that will add to this kind of activities. I'm not going to details about NALSA. I think Lordship is going to speak about that. But through this system, through Log Adalat, Legal Literacy Mission, prison legal aid clinics, and victim compensation scheme. These are the things we are having in our legal service authority is taking care of. As a president of Commonwealth Legal Education Association, I believe our next frontiers must be regional collaboration. Legal aid, like human rights, knows no borders. It thrives to shared learning and comparative experiences. Across the Commonwealth, we see inspiring models such as the South Africa Community Paralegal Movement, which brings law to the people through trained local intermediaries. And in Caribbean, the Digital Justice Outreach, which uses technology to provide real-time legal advice to remote communities. Both are models of how inclusivity and innovation can converge. Together, they affirm the Commonwealth Principles on Access to Justice 2019, that justice must be accessible, transparent, inclusive, and rooted in empathy. What we now need is to reinvent, but to regenerate, and but to integrate these things. As academics and practitioners, our task is to build bridges between research, policy, and practice. Universities and Bar Association together can play a decisive role in this transformation. Our law faculties can create regional training courses and exchange program on access to justice, while the bar can mentor young lawyers to serve in legal aid and human rights work. We can jointly organize annual South Asian dialogue on legal aid and access to justice, a platform where scholars, judges, practicing lawyers, and other civil society people can share their experiences, develop a model frameworks, and publish collaborative policy papers that can guide reform. By encouraging community-based legal clinics, joint pro bono fellowships, and bar university partnership, we can make legal education and practice a direct instrument of service. These are the modest yet meaningful steps, acts of integration rather than invention, that can ensure our intellectual work speaks to realities of the people it seeks to empower. Legal aid is not simply a procedural right. It is a philosophy of justice. It reminds us that rights without remedies are illusions, and remedies without empathy are hollow. This oration marks the beginning of a deeper conversation as for every citizen who gained the courage to speak through the law. Democracy grows stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sivakumar. We now invite Mr. Puvitharan, President's Counsel, Chairman of the Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka, to address the gathering on this special occasion. Mr. Puvitharan will also have the honor of introducing our distinguished orator for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to Mr. V. Puvitharan, President's Counsel, Chairman of the Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka.
His Lordship Justice Suryakant, the most senior-most judge of the Supreme Court of India, the members of the head table, His Lordship Justice Yasanta Kodaguda President's Council, Judge of the Supreme Court, His Lordship Justice Rohanta Abesurya, President of the Court of Appeal, and the judges of the Court of Appeal, the High Court, and members of the judiciary, President's Council, and my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and privilege to address this esteemed gathering of legal professionals. And since this oration today is about strengthening a legal aid system to achieve human rights of marginalized and minorities, I think it would be appropriate to say a few words about the provisions of legal aid and more specifically the crucial role played by the Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka. The essence of legal aid is empowering justice through access and service. However, legal aid is not charity and it is not merely a service also. It is a cornerstone of a just and equitable society. It ensures that the doors of justice remain open to all, regardless of economic status, background, or circumstances. Legal aid embodies the principle that the law must serve everyone equally, not just those with means, but also most vulnerable and the marginalized among us. The Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka, which was established in 1978, has been steadfast in its mission to provide free legal assistance to those who cannot afford litigation. The working mechanism of the Legal Aid Commission is structured to ensure accessibility and efficiency. The Commission operates through a network of 86 branch offices island-wide, each staffed by qualified legal officers who assess the eligibility of applicants and provide tailored assistance. Cases are prioritized based on urgency and need. Special attention is given to vulnerable groups. The Commission also coordinates with the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, government agencies, and international agencies such as UNDP to facilitate comprehensive support for clients. Regular monitoring, reporting, and public outreach are integral components of its operation, ensuring accountability and continuous improvement of its service to the society. The Commission's work spans a wide array of services, including representations in courts, advice and counseling, public legal education, and advocacy for legal reforms. It has been instrumental in supporting women, children, and elderly, and those facing discrimination or abuse. In doing so, I would say the Commission not only provides legal remedies but also restores dignity and hope to countless of individuals. I should also say that despite its successes, the Legal Aid Commission faces ongoing challenges such as limited resources and funding, increasing demands for services, and the complexity of modern legal issues. We are addressing these challenges. We require not only the dedication of individual lawyers, but also active involvement of key institutions such as government agencies, legal and other professional organizations, and Bar Association of Sri Lanka. At this juncture, I must also specifically state that the Bar Association of Sri Lanka plays a pivotal role by collaborating with the Commission, mobilizing legal professionals for pro bono work, and advocating for systematic improvements of the legal aid system. And through joint initiatives, training programs, and awareness campaigns, the government agencies, the Ministry of Justice, Bar Association, and the UNDP help to strengthen the Commission's capacity and broaden its impact across the country. I now invite, as we lawyers, we are entrusted with profound responsibility, not only to our clients, but to society at large. Our knowledge of law is a powerful tool when wielded in the service of justice. It has the capacity to transform lives. Legal Aid Commission relies on dedication and commitment of legal professionals who are willing to give back, to mentor, and to serve. Whether through volunteering, providing pro bono or low bono services, or supporting legal education initiatives, each of us can contribute to the mission of ensuring justice is accessible to all. Our collective efforts reinforce the public trust in the legal system and reaffirm our professional highest ideals. So, let us remember that true measure of legal system is not found in statutes and courtrooms, but in the lives of those it touches. By supporting Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka and embracing the cause of legal aid, we uphold the promise of justice for all. I think at this juncture, I also can urge each of you to reflect on how you can contribute through your time, expertise, or advocacy to this noble endeavor. Together, we can make the ideal of equal justice under law living reality for every citizen of Sri Lanka. So, the Legal Aid Commission is now trying to move forward with the services, the assistance of the Bar Association and the Ministry of Justice and other agencies. At this juncture, I am also tasked to introduce His Lordship Justice Suryakant. It is in my indeed distinct honor and privilege to introduce His Lordship Justice Suryakant, senior most member of the Supreme Court of India, a luminary in the field of law whose remarkable career spans over 4 decades. Born on February 10, 1962 in Hisar, Haryana, Justice Suryakant embarked on his legal journey with law degree from Maharishi Dayanand University. In 1984, he began his practice at the District Court of Hisar before moving to the Punjab and Haryana High Court in Chandikar, where he specialized in constitutional service and civil matters. His Lordship Justice Surya Kant's dedication and expertise soon earned him the distinction of being appointed the youngest Advocate General of Haryana in July 2000, and he was subsequently designated as a senior advocate. His exemplary service continued with his elevation as a permanent judge of the Punjab and Haryana High Court in January 2004. During his tenure as a High Court judge, he contributed significantly as a member of the governing body of National Legal Service Authority from 2007 to 2011. In pursuit of the academic excellence, he ranked first in his master's degree in law in 2011. His unwavering commitment to justice led to his appointment as Chief Justice of Himachal Pradesh High Court in October 2018. Subsequently, in May 2019, His Lordship was elevated to the Supreme Court of India, where his judgments have set benchmarks in areas ranking from immigration law to the protection of rights of domestic workers. Currently, His Lordship Justice Surya Kant serves as the Executive Chairman of the National Legal Service Authority and is an active member of various committees of the Indian Law Institute. His career is a testament to his relentless pursuit of judicial service, compassion, academic distinction, and steadfast adherence to the rule of law. I now invite His Lordship Justice Surya Kant to deliver the keynote address. Please join me in welcoming Justice Surya Kant, whose legacy continues to inspire and shape the future of justice in India.
My esteemed colleague, Justice Yasantha Kaudagoda, Honorable Judge of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, Justice Rohantha Abhay Surya, President of the Court of Appeal, Mr. Rajiv Amar Surya, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Shri V. Povithran PC, Chairman of the Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka, Shri Chathura A. Galena, Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Shri Lakshan Dayas, Chairman of the BASL Human Rights Committee, Professor Dr. Shiva Kumar, President of the Commonwealth Legal Education Association, senior advocates, office bearers, and members of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, members of the legal fraternity, Mr. Santhan Krishnan, Live President of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Mr. Arunesh Gupta, Senior Advocate from the Supreme Court Bar Association of India, Mr. Lakshman Anand, a young Indian Foreign Service Office from the High Commission of India. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to be here with you all in the land where ancient wisdom shakes hands with modern optimism. I'm talking of Sri Lanka's gracious hospitality and plural spirit echo the goals we all share, namely equity, dignity, and peace. The bonds between our countries are deeply rooted in the belief that societies grow stronger not by excluding the vulnerable but by uplifting them. The endeavor to secure justice in India for the unprivileged transcends mere legal obligation. In fact, it is and has always been a test of our collective consensus. Today, as Executive Chairman of the National Legal Service Authority in India, I am honored to share how our nation has sought to uphold human rights for those at the margins and how an ever-evolving commitment to free legal aid extending from the Supreme Court to the smallest village has transformed ideals into living realities for millions. I seek to do so by first emphasizing the Indian judiciary's role in safeguarding fundamental and human rights throughout the nation. Second, by elaborating the significance of institutional mechanisms such as National Legal Service Authority and National Human Rights Commission in aiding the vulnerable communities to assert their legal rights and freedoms. And finally, by displaying how a responsible citizenry facilitates the very spirit of our Constitution. From the earliest dawn of its civilization, India has regarded justice and access to justice not as a privilege of the powerful, but as a sacred duty of the state and society alike. Long before the vocabulary of human rights entered international discourse, India's moral and legal imagination had already embraced the principles of dignity, equality, and compassion as the foundation of good governance. I just an instance would like to quote Kautilya's Arthashastra, written nearly 2000 years ago, emphasized that the ruler's foremost duty was the protection of his people, particularly the poor, the orphaned, and the infirm. The Dharmashastras codified due process, equality before the law, and humane punishment. The Buddhist concept of Dhamma, propagated by Emperor Ashoka, declared, and I quote, that the state exists for the happiness of all beings. This established one of the earliest notions of a welfare governance. In these ancient precepts lies the timeless Indian conviction that justice must be lived, not merely proclaimed. Justice in India has never been transactional, it has always been transcendental, a principle of social harmony, ethical conduct, and compassion in governance. This civilizational inheritance has continued to illuminate India's moral compass throughout history. Let me just highlight how India guarantees the protection of human rights through its constitution. The 2 centuries of British colonial rule in India represented, like you suffered in Sri Lanka also, in many ways a shift in our civilization's reliance on the principles of equality and dignity. What was often described by the colonial administration as a mission to civilize was, in reality, an exercise of power that curtailed many of the rights and freedoms Indians had traditionally enjoyed. It was within this oppressive framework that India's freedom struggle ensued, and the architects of independent India's constitution, visionaries like Dr. Ambedkar and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, resolved to create a new legal order rooted in justice and equality for all. They knew from lived experience that freedom without dignity is hollow and liberty without access to justice is fragile. The harrowing tragedies and systemic exploitation which marked India's colonial era left indelible scars on the nation's collective memory. The drafters of our constitution drew upon these lessons when crafting foundational protections. Their commitment is evident in explicit provisions like Article 14 that talks of equality before law, Article 15 that prohibits discrimination based on religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, Article 17 which prohibits untouchability, and Article 21 which confers the right to life and personal liberty. Subsequently, Article 39A was also added, which provides equal justice and free legal aid to the citizens of India. These provisions, read together, create a constitutional architecture where justice is not a privilege for the few but a promise to all. By transforming past injustices into a constitutional mandate, the drafters of our constitution guaranteed that the cruelties and exclusions of colonial rule would never again define India's social or legal order. This is how the second role then under the constitution is played by the Indian judiciary as the vanguard of human rights. In the 75 years since independence, the Indian judiciary has functioned as the moral vanguard of this constitutional vision. Every time a person in need of such protection has approached the courts have, through creative interpretations, judicial courage, and compassion, expanded the contours of fundamental rights from a benevolent aspiration into a living guarantee, and fundamental rights under the Indian Constitution are a defined shape of human rights. For example, take Husainara Khatun's case, often called the genesis of judicial concern for India's under-trial prisoners. Here, hundreds languished in jail for years for petty offences. Through a legal aid-based public interest litigation, the Supreme Court acknowledged that poverty alone had become a de facto sentence, and it consequently declared the right to free legal representation and speedy trial as an integral part of Article 21, the same article which I was referring to, which guarantees life and liberty. The aftermath was dramatic. Thousands of under-trial prisoners were freed across India, systemic reforms were introduced, and legal aid delivery gained new urgency. Today's robust legal aid system, to which as executive chairman I am heading, owes much to the momentum created by this case alone. Thereafter, in Sukhdas case, the momentum gained further. Here, an impoverished accused faced trial and conviction without realizing he had a right to counsel, that he could engage an advocate. He had no knowledge. The Supreme Court not only set aside the conviction, calling it a violation of basic justice, but mandated that every magistrate proactively inform indigent accused of their right to state-funded representation. That if they can't afford, then state will fund and provide the free legal aid counsel to such accused. Law became not just textual, but procedural compassion in action. In Delhi domestic workers case, women workers case, the Supreme Court, aided by legal aid institutions, developed compensation frameworks and institutional support for survival of sexual violence, setting new standards for victim-centered justice. More recently, in 2017, Vrindavan Widows case showed how Supreme Court legal aid can rescue individuals from bureaucratic neglect. This case concerned the inhumane living conditions of widows in government-run shelters in a city of India. The Supreme Court Legal Service Committee and other legal aid bodies intervened in the case to advocate for the rights of these widows. Pursuant to this, in a landmark 2017 judgment, the Supreme Court issued a series of directions to the central and state governments to address the institutional apathy that had allowed bureaucratic neglect to persist. Finally, in the case of NALSA, National Legal Service Authority, you see, you will find a very unique thing in India, that the National Legal Service Authority which I am heading, that itself becomes a petitioner before the Supreme Court. So our state legal service authority and even National Legal Service Authority, we file case in Supreme Court by our own name. So NALSA itself filed case, and one of the best examples where NALSA filed a case, NALSA versus Union of India, stands as a beacon for proactive legal aid advocacy. In a historical petition filed by NALSA itself, the Supreme Court recognized transgender persons as India's third gender, asserting their full and equal constitutional rights. This ruling extended beyond mere inclusion, sending a powerful message to every marginalized group: you are seen, you are protected, and your dignity matters. Indeed, in a recent initiative, when before I became the chairman of the National Legal Service Authority, I was chairman of the Supreme Court Legal Service Committee. And while I was there, the Supreme Court Legal Service Committee undertook a pan-India survey and identified almost 5,000 cases in which individuals convicted of murder or heinous offences were legally entitled to release on bail, or they were entitled to file their appeal in Supreme Court or any other higher court, but they were incarcerated for want of legal representation. These individuals were promptly identified. I am talking about 24 and 25 only. All of them were provided legal representation. These individuals were promptly identified and provided free legal aid, ensuring that procedural rights did not remain theoretical but translated into meaningful access to justice. These cases or instances which I have just quoted are some examples to highlight how the Indian judiciary has remained attuned to the needs of its population for decades. Another common thread connecting all these cases is that these landmark judgments came into being through significant aid and assistance provided by various legal aid authorities. That is the significance of the legal aid authorities and their functioning structure in India. It is important to acknowledge that the courts, though ever ready to protect constitutionally enshrined rights, cannot do so unless instances of violations are brought to their attention. Empowering the vulnerable to seek legal redress requires a nationwide institutional mechanism with both reach and resources. This is where the country's legal service authorities steps in. That is the gap in the system that they were and are destined to fill. This is how we try to build up the institutional mechanism of NALSA framework and global parallels. In India, the recognition of the need to have such a countrywide institutional mechanism is eventually embodied in the Legal Service Authorities Act way back in 1987. That act has created a three-tiered structure to ensure that free legal aid is available to those who need it most. At the apex, at the highest level, stands the National Legal Service Authority. Section 4 of this 1987 Act specifies that NALSA, as we call in short, National Legal Service Authority, is obligated to formulate policies, designs nationwide program, and oversee their implementation through the state legal service authorities and district legal service authorities, each chaired by sitting judges of the high courts and district courts respectively. Here the uniqueness of the legal service regime in India is that the parliament, while enacting the law, itself has provided in the statute that senior most judge of the Supreme Court will be the executive chairman of the National Legal Service Authority. Senior most judge of the High Court will be the executive chairman of the State Legal Service Authority, and every district judge will be the chairman of the District Legal Service Authority. So the entire legal aid framework has been entrusted to the judiciary. That's one of the uniqueness in India. And of the, I can share with you proudly that the government of India never ever has put any restriction on fund utilization. The amount we demand for allocation for the purpose of legal aid activities, for providing legal aid counsel, paralegal volunteers, and for any other activities. My difficulty throughout the year is how to spend the money. So I keep on writing to the state legal service authorities that look here, hundreds of crores of rupees I have allocated to you, please spend it for the cause for which it has been allocated so that I can utilize the surplus funds with me. Never ever there is a lack of financial aid or financial assistance from the government side. A full-fledged budget every year is allocated to us. So that is the proactive approach of the union government also for the cause of the legal aid and for the cause of providing protection of human rights or fundamental rights or constitutional rights to the vulnerable and marginalized sections of the society. The purpose of this entire architecture is simple but vital: to ensure that no citizen is denied justice due to economic or social barriers. The statutory mandate of the 1987 Act requires that NALSA coordinate legal literacy drive, legal aid clinics, paralegal training, and alternative dispute resolution forums such as Lok Adalats across the country. We have been able to, to share with you, because this is something a welcome step, and I will request the Sri Lankan Legal Aid Commission and the a very vibrant bar of this Sri Lankan, that we have been able to identify mostly retired persons, retired government officials who are living in different rural areas or semi-urban areas to serve as our paralegal volunteers. We have used the word paralegal volunteers, PLVs we call, and we pay them a handsome honorarium. When I took over as chairman, the paralegal volunteers for a day when he goes, he used to get rupees 250 minimum and up to 500. I have just 2 months back, I have revised that honorarium to minimum 600 rupees to 1000. Similarly, for a legal aid counsel, again I have 3 times I have revised the fee structure because government is providing sufficient funds. So through this mechanism, we have been able to reach out to the streets, to every house in the village, and so much so, when there was an election dispute before me with regard to the revision of voter lists, and there were allegations that there are people who are eligible to be enrolled as voters, but nobody is approaching them, then I directed the State Legal Service Authority that your paralegal volunteers will go, get these people filled up their forms and make sure that all those who are eligible, they are enrolled as voters. So that much proactive, the working pattern and the working scope has been enlarged as far as the legal service authorities are concerned. A defining feature of legal service authorities in India is their driven approach. They do not simply wait for pleas for help to arrive at their doorsteps. They actively identify those in need, initiate proceeding themselves, and intervene before the courts, especially the Supreme Court, where systemic change is necessary. This movement from a passive model of access to an active, equity-driven model represents a historical shift. It puts the onus on the state to reach the most marginalized and not on the marginalized to find their way to the state. At this core, the legal aid movement in India stands for a simple but revolutionary idea. Idea is justice must be delivered at the doorstep where the need is greatest. Through this three-tiered structure, with the focus on free legal representation, alternative dispute resolution, legal awareness, and community engagement, India's approach ensures both reach and depth. It is a dynamic response to the country's diversity and needs. Today, India has 37 state legal service authorities, 709 district legal service authorities, and over 2,000 subdivisional legal service committees, forming one of the world's largest legal aid network. Over 50,000 paralegal volunteers are trained to assist people in villages, shelters, and prisons. Recently, during the third National Lok Adalat, which we conducted very recently, over 224 million cases have been settled, saving countless litigants' time, money, and hardship. In the past year alone, over 16 lakh people have benefited through legal services provided under this 1987 Act. NALSA's flagship programs, such as the legal services to the victims of acid attacks scheme, the scheme for victims of trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. Then another scheme is Jagrati scheme for the empowerment of marginalized communities through legal literacy. All these illustrate how legal aid can function as a shield and as a means of empowerment. Our legal service authorities have been going beyond traditional methods to ensure that access to justice truly reaches every corner of our nation. Through innovative initiatives such as Tele-Law, launched in collaboration with the Union Ministry of Law and Justice, legal assistance is now being delivered directly to citizens in the most remote and rural regions of India. By using video conferencing and telephonic consultations, this initiative has overcome barriers of distance, language, and awareness, bringing the advice of a lawyer within reach of those who perhaps never know how to approach the justice delivery system. My dear friends, in Sri Lanka, probably you might not be able to appreciate the gravity of the situation which I just highlighted, the geographical barriers. Just imagine a small state like Arunachal Pradesh in the northeast. When you travel to Arunachal Pradesh, where I myself traveled for legal aid activities, from one place to another, it takes 12 to 24 hours to reach, and there are no means, and sometimes there is heavy snowfall, 24-hour snowfall, 24-hour rainfall, and there are very tough terrains that you cannot walk, you cannot reach. So just imagine a hospital where a person who is requiring emergent services, he is in trauma, and you cannot reach a trauma center. The same situation happens in the case of legal aid also. So what to do? For that to find out the solution and to meet with this challenge, that we have introduced this Tele-Law and a mobile services. So now they may or they may not. If you need a legal advice, the council, say place like Tawang, a city on the very huge height. So a lawyer sitting in Tawang, he is connected to all the nearby areas where the road can't go, person can't go, but that mobile connectivity is there. He will provide the legal services, and then he will instruct the local paralegal volunteer who is working in that village or in that area or in that hamlet, that how he will proceed to provide the legal aid to the person who need. So this is how the geographical barriers those challenges we have successfully dismantled. We have even developed mobile apps to help citizens locate the nearest legal aid office. Our legal aid offices are everywhere located. We have now entered the colleges and schools also, where we have opened the legal aid clinics in every colleges. Now we are entering into schools also, and we are making it mandatory for all these schools to have legal aid clinics. And there we provide services to file grievances or access multilingual legal resources, placing justice literally at their fingertips. India's model of free legal aid embodies the principle that justice delayed is not merely justice denied, but democracy diminished. Comparable institutional models around the world affirm the same truth, that legal aid is not a luxury but a lifeline essential for safeguarding rights and ensuring equality before law. By looking at global examples, we can see how other countries have institutionalized access to justice in ways that reinforce the same principle that guide our own legal service authorities. Now, about Sri Lanka's legal aid, Mr. Puvithran has given you the brief ideas. Two more countries I would just give as an instance. In South Africa also offers a powerful example. Its legal aid board operates through a mixed system combining public defenders, NGO, and university law clinics to serve communities historically excluded by poverty or discrimination. It has been pivotal in landmark litigation that secured access to education for children in informal settlements and housing rights for those displaced by apartheid era policies, ensuring that legal aid is not merely policy but a lived reality for millions, bridging the gap between human rights standards and everyday experiences of underprivileged communities. Similar to India, Brazil's constitutionally enshrined Defensoria Publico system stands out, provides another instructive parallel for providing state-funded legal aid to women, indigenous groups, and residents of urban favelas, that small hamlets in the urban areas. But there it is confined to a very restricted part of the community, not that every person who is financially poor or who is marginalized, or that everyone is not entitled to that free legal aid. They need to expand their scope. But why I am just quoting them, these examples demonstrate that when legal aid is embedded across local and national frameworks, it can confront both immediate crisis and address social inequities. These initiatives reveal an undeniable truth, namely, access to legal aid substantially increases people's capacity to assert their fundamental and human rights. Now, what is the way forward? It is my firm belief that while strong institutions can deliver justice, only an engaged citizenry can sustain it. Legal aid must therefore grow simultaneously from the top down and the bottom up. The top down structure with NALSA, SALSA, and DLSs ensures a legal framework, resources, and accountability. But for the system to flourish, a bottom up movement is equally vital. One where students, young lawyers, and community volunteers participate actively in spreading legal awareness and delivering services. These bottom up approaches are taking shape by harnessing the enthusiasm of our youth to further the cause of accessible justice. Over the years, I have noticed that with each successive generation, India's youth have become more attuned, empathic, and responsive to the needs of society. There is a genuine eagerness among young people to help, to give back, and to embody the values of responsible citizenship. Recognizing this, India has embedded legal aid into very fabric of its legal education. Law universities and colleges across the country operate legal aid clinics, often in collaboration with District Legal Service Authority. Through these clinics, students assist in drafting petitions, advising fellow citizens, conducting awareness camps, and organizing legal literacy drives in villages, prisons, and slum areas. In the process, they learn that law is not just a profession but a responsibility. Young advocates are also being recruited and mentored under the panel lawyer system, which I was saying that free legal aid council. These panels are developed by various courts' legal service committees, which assign them to represent indigent litigants before various courts across the length and breadth of the country. Incentives such as stipends, I was talking of the honorarium, recognition certificates, and structured mentorship programs have been made as part of the legal aid campaign, and so that they can eventually acquire the status of respectable professionals. Over 34,000 lawyers possessing more than 10 years of practice have been empaneled as panel lawyers, and several thousands more with lesser experience have also been recruited to assist them. The panel, prepared for 3 years at a time, is also reviewed and updated periodically, keeping in view the performance of these lawyers. Monitoring and monitoring committees have also been set up for close evaluation of these empaneled lawyers. India's bottom-up momentum also draws energy from civil society and the youth. Thousands of law students, volunteers during Pan-India Legal Awareness Weeks that we keep on organizing, paralegal volunteer training programs they attend, and our outreach initiatives in remote regions are also participated by them. NGOs and communities groups collaborate with District Legal Service Authority to address local issues from bonded labor to gender violence, while retired judges and senior lawyers provide mentorship. This synergy between structure and spirit, between policy and participation, represents the global future of human rights protection. It demonstrates that when citizens move in tandem but inevitable, the stories of India's legal aid movement is, at its heart, the story of a democracy and its consensus. It is proof that even in a vast and complex society, justice can be made real when vision is matched by institutional will. From the ancient perception of dharma to the modern architecture of Nalsa, India's journey reflects an enduring faith in human dignity and an unbroken commitment to the idea that justice must reach the last person first. Each time a prisoner regains freedom through a legal aid petition, every time a widow receives her pension after years of neglect, and every time a child in conflict with law is guided towards reform instead of retribution, the Constitution promise breathes anew. Yet, this is not a story of completion, as new challenges will emerge, such as digital exclusion, displacement, climate vulnerability, and transnational migration. Our task is to innovate further, to modernize outreach, and to deepen inclusion. Justice must evolve with society, or it will risk becoming its shadow. To our friends here in Sri Lanka and across the Commonwealth, India's experience offers not a model to be imitated, but rather a vision to inspire. The belief that every person, regardless of wealth or status, is entitled to the full protection of the law is not merely Indian, it is universal. But India's experience affirms that institutionalizing that belief, making it work in practice every day for millions, is possible and imperative. Each nation must craft its own system anchored in local realities, yet inspired by a shared conviction that legal aid is the first line of defense against the erosion of human rights. When justice becomes truly accessible, when every citizen, regardless of means, can stand tall before the law, then and only then can we say that freedom has fulfilled its true purpose. Justice, after all, is not a destination, it's a journey, a collective journey of nations, institutions, and hearts. And in that journey, India stands ready not only as a participant but as a partner and pioneer, committed to ensuring that the light of human rights shines undimmed across the entire world. Before I close, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Bar Association of Sri Lanka and the Commonwealth Legal Education Association for inviting me to share these reflections. It is a privilege to participate in such a distinguished forum dedicated to the advancement of justice and human rights, and most particularly when a very informed elite legal community is here to share my views along with the other distinguished speakers who have also highlighted the cause of human rights and the mechanism that we can effectively introduce to ensure their protection. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Your Lordship, for that deeply inspiring and thought-provoking oration. And also, thank you for sharing a bit of the wealth of knowledge which you have, and for coming to Sri Lanka despite your busy schedule. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to mark this historic occasion, we now invite Mr. Rajiv Amar Surya, the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, to present a token of appreciation, the Oration plaque, to His Lordship, Honorable Justice Surya Kant. And we also invite Mr. Rajiv Amar Surya, the President of the BASL, to present a commemorative volume of the BASL Law Journal to Professor S. Sivakumar, the President of the Commonwealth Legal Education Association.
We are receiving a token of appreciation. Thank you so much. We would like to thank you on behalf of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Please give a big round of applause. Thank you so much on behalf of both the countries. I think we have exchanged a lot of things. It's the mutual respect, the understanding. Thank you so much for the wonderful gifts and the tokens of appreciation. On behalf of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, I would like to once again thank everyone for this endeavor. Thank you. You may now take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to conclude the proceedings of this eventful and momentous occasion, I would like to most humbly invite Mr. Chatura Galhena, Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, to deliver the closing remarks.
My Lord Justices, the dignitaries of the head table, President BASL, Mr. Amarasuriya. Traditionally, the Secretary has to propose the vote of thanks in every BASL event, so I have now been used and trained for this task. I think after listening to Justice Suryakant's oration, the selection of the orator for the inaugural oration has been justified. I don't need to explain that the oratory skills as well as sharing the experiences gave us a new eye-opener in the sphere of human rights and legal aid, which we can learn lessons from our neighboring big brother. I very humbly thank on behalf of the Bar Association to His Lordship Justice Suryakant for accepting our invitation, flying all the way. And I heard a little while ago that this is your first visit, my Lord, to Sri Lanka. And I think this is a beautiful island. Even though little disturbed by these days on the weather, you are mostly welcome to visit more often to Sri Lanka and share your inspirations with the bar as well as with the community. And I would like to thank Lordship Justice Kodagoda, always being a true member of the bar, despite being a member of the highest judicial in this country. Thank you, sir. You always help us. And I think we must appreciate that the work you've done for the Golden Jubilee commemoration is still being carried by our president all over the world in the legal, in the law Asia, as well as in other events. This book has now, I think, carried for more than 40 countries in the world by our president. Thank you, sir, for that. And also, Lord Chief Justice Rohantha Abeyasuriya, President Court of Appeal, sir, your presence make a big inspiration to us. You know, you are having a very tight schedules in your work, but you find time to be present, and you are a person who inherit a rich heritage from the Bar Association, being a son of one of our past presidents. Thank you for being here present today. And also other justices of the Court of Appeal and district judges of Colombo and Senior President's Council, including our past presidents, Mr. Puljaya Surya, President's Council, Mr. Salia Piris, and Mr. Jeff Alagaratnam, President's Council, who are present here today. You are always, even though you have left your office, you are continue to be members of the bar, helping us, encouraging us, guiding us towards the success of this institution. And also, I would like to thank Lakshan Dias, Ms. Lakshan Dias, our friend, I call him Lakshan. Lakshan for organizing this. When President and I, at the beginning of our tenure, discussed about this distribution of committees, we thought Human Rights Committee should be given to somebody who's a human rights activist rather than just a member of the bar. So you have justified and shown your color today by organizing this inaugural event. With all by yours, we only supported. You did it by yourself. And also Mr. Pavitharan, President's Council, Chairman of the Legal Aid Commission, for helping us with this event and also making a speech about the Legal Aid Commission and introducing the Honorable orator of the event. And I would like also to thank the staff members of the BASL who has taken trouble in organizing this event, and media institutions for covering the event, and last but not least, to all the members who participated, the members of the executive committee, members of the bar, members of the official bar as well, few members of the official bar as well, and all those who are present today from, and also the representative of the foreign diplomatic missions. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and being here. And also, on behalf of the bar, I thank again for Professor Sivakumar for attending today, speaking, and also organizing these tokens of appreciations to be exchanged, which makes our ties and relationships more stronger. And as President, as his speech said, this human right oration, even though this is the inaugural, has to be a live tradition of the BASL calendar. So we will be here, we will be leaving one day after our office is completed, but these traditions we start must carry forward. Therefore, I wish this event will be an annual event in the BASL calendar from year 2025 onwards, and to see a greater success in this event. And I thank every one of you again for being present, and I invite on behalf of the Human Rights Commission and the Bar Association of Sri Lanka to join us with a small refreshment organized in the third floor of the BASL mini auditorium, and have a pleasant evening and a safe journey back amidst of the bad weather. Thank you very much again. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Galhena. As he rightfully mentioned and concluded the event, you can join us for refreshments. Thank you so much for being part of the ongoing projects and programs of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, and for supporting us continuously and throughout.
Thank you once again for all who were part of this evening. And now the head table will make their way out of this hall.